So my first question is like, why you wanted to become a cinematographer, sir? What inspired you to become a cinematographer?
So cinematography for me is an offshoot of theater, I would say. When I was in college in Delhi, in Gamjas, so I would be doing college theater, and from that, by the end of my college, I would light my plays. I would take pictures of my plays. So from there, I started generating some interest in image making, and I found out, what to do now. So then I figured out something called as films, and I said, okay, fine, let me try it. And then the journey started. I started seeing cinema with a different perspective, and I applied for a lot of places, and I only got through FTII Pune for a 1 year program, which I did not get through. I was happy because I wanted to spend more time there. When I went for the interview, I figured that this is the place that I want to come. So I dropped 1 year and then I joined back. In that 1 year, I did a little short course on cinematography. So that intensified my interest in the subject. And so then I would do all kinds of jobs for research, for some program, or I would find an opportunity to hang around in a film set somewhere. And then the next year I applied and I got through. So, and then the journey has been, I was at FTI Pune for 3 year program, and yeah, since then it has been, and primarily after that, I worked like almost like since my second year, I would on and off work. I really admire, Ranjan's work, Ranjan Palit. I worked primarily with him at the beginning of my career, and then I started off on my own, and he's still a very, very dear friend of mine. We really admire each other. So that's been the journey.
Sir, have your parents been supportive of your decision to go to film school and be a cinematographer?
Yeah, I mean, when I went for my graduation, I studied commerce. So after a year, I figured I don't want to study commerce, and I told my dad that I want to study the literature or English, English literature or history, which I was asked not to, and continue with what I was doing because it was be dropping a year. But by the end of it, I had a clear chat with my father, and he agreed, he understood, and I told him what it is about and all that. He was very supportive. He came for I remember, when I got through FTI, he came for my admissions and he was very happy about it, that the kind of space I landed up. So, yeah, he's no more, but I really admire that, he agreed for me to do this.
And sir, what's your opinion on film school? Like for cinematography, like it's a technical job. If anybody wants to become a cinematographer, should they go to film school or should they don't? Like what's your opinion?
So cinematography for me is, we most of us see that it's a technical job. It's not only technical, it's as much as science, as much as art. It's a pure amalgamation of both. So one has to be aware of the scientific developments, the technical developments that is happening, or understand the technique, the skill set of it. At the same time, the art of it, as in the aesthetic value that you bring in, it has to be a balance of both of it. And yes, I do believe a formal education in this subject does good to you. At the same time, I also believe that now in today's, back in the day it was difficult because there was no internet, or even if the internet was there, the information was not so easily available. But in today's time, I believe that you know internet has so much of information. If you use it properly, then you actually do not need. I mean, if you can do something, a formal education system with your own self, yes, you can do it. At the same time, the availability of resources and everything, like specifically speaking about cinematography, availability of cameras, lenses, understanding different systems. It formal education does help because there is everything around, and you have a peer group which leads to discussions and more study together. So yes, formal education is important. At the same time, it is not mandatory. One can, if one wants to learn somehow, internet is available. You can, with all the information that is there is more than enough. I still study myself, when I prepare for something, for a new project. Yeah, it does help.
So, sir, during your film school days, who has been your biggest inspiration and what were your favorite films?
Yeah, I mean, there were a bunch of cinematographers or filmmakers you really admired, cinema that you really admired. You can't really pinpoint that, okay, I only believe in Tarkovsky kind of film or, what Bergman did or Nyquist did. So I don't believe in that. But at that point of time, I remember we had Ranjan, as I earlier mentioned also, who had come for a workshop, and I really admired his work, and luckily I got to work with him also. At the same time, there are so many cinematographers who are practicing, and so many people's work you really admire, and you like. There's so much to learn, so much of exchange of ideas and thoughts that happens with fellow or senior cinematographers. Yeah, I mean, there's not nobody I can pinpoint and say that I really like this kind of cinema or that kind of cinema. Cinema in overall does really interest me, and it is a very, very powerful medium that we have. And I do keep exchange of thoughts and ideas. I keep doing that with a lot of fellow cinematographers. Yeah, I do that.
So, sir, you have worked in
Yes.
assistant camera in Sairat and Tithi. So, these are regional films. Like, what has been your experience in this one?
So I'll tell you a little bit about both the films, how I landed up there. So speaking about Sarat, it's a friend who was shooting. I had no clue at that point of time. I had not seen Nagraj's earlier work, and the friend, senior Dr. Reddy, he was shooting it, and I was at that point of time. I was looking for a job, and he called me and he said, if you're free, come over. It's going to be a month or two. We're going to shoot something. I said, okay. I went, and so it's not that I am ACing as assistant there or something. It was like a very good bonding that we had. We would make images together, and so Dr. would give me a lot of space to do things and ideate with him and do things together. So that's how Sarat happened. In fact, at that point of time, I told Nagaraj, I haven't seen your earlier films. So he said, okay, fine. So during the prep time, he arranged the screening of his Fandry and Pistulia one evening. I'm really grateful. Great time working with that team. Such a lovely bunch of people to work with in Sarat. I really cherish the times that I have spent there. And the second film that I worked, I mean, as you mentioned, is Titi. So Titi also, I knew of this film being made. I wasn't a part of it initially. So it was another friend who was shooting the film, and he had some date issues. So he asked me to shoot for him. So I started the film. I shot about 3 weeks of it, and then he could join back, and I had to leave. That happened, and somehow or the other, Tithi is actually shot by nine cinematographers over a span of 6 to 8 months. It so happened that Dono Temper, he started the film as an associate director to Ram Reddy, and they were keeping on changing. There was a writer who shot, Ram himself shot. There was Somender Sahi for whom I was proxying. He shot. And then there were other people who were shooting. So it so happened that people were changing hands and it was being shot over seasons. But we had to keep some kind of consistency. So I was aware of that if the hands are going to change. So what I learned from my previous experiences of my independent works right before that is a film called Lajwanti, which I did, that you make certain principles or certain set of rules, not rules I would say, but a certain kind of principle that you would end up shooting this way. So if you see Tithi, it's all eye level. Every shot is at eye level. So we had a chat about it, Ram and me, and we said, let's do this so that tomorrow things will be at ease. So yeah, that happened, and then I ended up. He invited me to shoot the climax along with Doron. I ended up going again after about 3 months to shoot the climax bit of Tithi. Yeah, I mean both these films I ended up working and having a very good time with both the teams. So they're still friends, and we still keep talking about the cinema that we are doing. Yeah.
Okay. So you have also assisted in Ek Thi Dayan and Saat Khun Maaf. So do you find any comparison while working in a regional film and in Bollywood industry?
Oh, like that. Yes. I mean, cinema is cinema. I don't know. So, like Tithi was a very, very small, it was, I would say, not a smaller crew. It was smaller crew. It was not the studio-based films that one sees, like how Saat Khon or Dayan was, Ek Thi Dayan was. And comparing that to this is, I mean, both are films, both are cinemas. Some have uh, like a wider budget scenario because it's backed by studio and you have big mainstream actors. And regional cinema, I find it more because there's more control, or rather, I would say there is more juice one gets out of it. Yeah, and comparing that, and Satkun Maaf was what? I was still in my third year in FTII. I worked on that. I had some break time, so I could figure and I could go. Diane was right after my film school. So both the films, Satkun was Ranjan. So by that time we were very close. Till the time I reached my third year, we were fairly close, and we would work together. So I landed up there. It was like obvious that I would be working with him. Yeah, I mean it's a big film. It's a big film in the sense more number of people, the stakes are high, setups are huge, large, and you have big actors coming in, Bollywood. So, but end of the day, you are still making images. If it's like the scale is this or scale is this, finally you are going to make images. So if you are at it, then nothing really bothers. It's all about the budgets, what kind of budgets you would get. Regional now is still I am really happy that regional cinema is being appreciated now, and it was always at the same time. Now there is a recognition that is happening. Things like what Kantara did was phenomenal, was really amazing what they could achieve and what they could do. So yeah, I mean it's finally it boils down to what the text and how do you translate that text in collaboration with the director and the entire other team members.
Okay, sir. Okay. And your sir working relationship with Suman Girl, you have worked with in the Scavengers of Dream and Andhar. So what has been your experience with them?
So I started working with Suman for Aadhaar, and that was the first film we did together. Unfortunately, it hasn't seen the release. We only could manage to festival run. And he is a very interesting person because he's an economist. He teaches economics in Miami, and he takes sabbaticals and he takes a break and he comes and does films here. So it's not exactly a filmmaker. He is a filmmaker, yes. At the same time, he is also an academician. So I really interact, and we talk almost every other day, and we have so many things to talk about. The allied or further interests that both of us have. We have become, I must say, very good friends, and so that was that. When we started Aadhaar, it was like again story we were doing. After that, we have done like two more films and one experimental we did. So Scavengers was one. There's another one that is slated sometime later this year. It's a Bengali feature with Sharmila Tagore and Ritu Parma. It's a mood piece that we have done. We're expecting sometime later this year for a release of that. With Suman, it was a very open way of working things. We would. I mean, there was no hesitation of me commenting on the directorial ideas or the way it is happening, the way it's happening. I mean, I do that with most of the directors that I work with. You have so many questions. You have because we all come with a certain uh, history of ours. Whatever we have lived through, that is what we will finally deliver, or our understanding. So with Suma, it has been very. I mean, I feel like I'm shooting with a friend, and it's a very open idea, and he gives complete freedom of what I want to do image wise. Of course, if something that is something really that kind of he finds it obstructing or something, he would definitely come up and say that maybe not this way, maybe you can see something that way. Otherwise, I had a complete freedom working with him for the last three films that we did, and we spent a lot of time prepping. Like for Scavengers, we prepped for more than I would say a couple of years. We kept talking about the idea, and while scripting, we would discuss and ideas and thoughts. I would say maybe we can bring in this kind of an idea. So in Scavengers, we would spend more time, and about 6 months before, this is his way of working. Is that he would bring the lead actors and the main people like the cinematographer, editor, production designer. He would take them to that space, and he would have an open discussion for a day or two, and then people go back to their respective works, and it's working in the back of your mind. So through those 6 months, some Sunday we would meet, and over phone we would talk about things, and maybe we could do something like that and this, and then you're slowly prepping for it. So you're preparing yourself, on low flame. You're preparing, and by the time you reach the production stage, it's about a week or two. I mean, depends upon what kind of setups we have. Week or two prep, and then we are at it. We know what we are doing. So that living with the idea for a longer period of time, that's what he does. That helps me and the whole film to realize it the way it is. And Scavenger was again a hybrid in the sense it was not documentary, it was not fiction. The core idea started from a New Yorker article that he read, and we talked about it, and then we started developing the idea of the film. So the article primarily was about a waste collector in Silicon Valley who would collect waste from people like Zuckerberg's house or something, and he would find an iPad, and that's a prized position for him. So what is waste for some is treasure for others. So idea started from there, and then I don't know if you've seen the film. So then we brought in the whole idea of mechanization also coming into, and how does it affect the this kind of a guy who's there, and we also delved into his family, his wife and kid, with his space. So with Scavengers, it was a wonderful journey because there was only two actors that we had, Shardul and Sudipta. The rest, everybody were non-actors. So, and most of the time, I mean, we would just react to things that is happening. So I ended up being a performer with the performers. So you are with the camera, I'm holding it, and then shooting it. So that's what this whole medium then lets you decide what kind of camera you want to use, how much you want to interview, intrude into those spaces? And how would you shoot? Would you have big lighting setup or not? So a lot of it with context driven, in a situation like this, that makes you intrude as much as you want only, and not really become overwhelming over the performers. So then you lose it. So just be like a shadow around and be with them. So that was the whole idea I practiced. When and then at the same time when you do, like the last film that I did with Shumon was Puratan. With Puratan, it was like a proper fiction. So I had complete control over the image making situation, from cameras to dolly to lights to costumes, and, all kinds of things that one can imagine. I had those kind of things. I mean, one would then ask for those things because to design. It was a very designed film. Then one would ask for those. It was not a docu-esque approach. With Scavenger, it was a docu-esque approach that we had.
And sir, you have shot a film on a phone, like with Pratik Bhatt. It's called Jal Tu Jalal Tu. But it doesn't look like it's shot in phone. So what has been your experience there?
So Pratik is my classmate. Pratik Shubham, the writer, the sound, Vidya, the editor, Samad. I mean, we've been friends. We've grown up together. So almost after 15 years, he approached me and said, "You have to do this." And I was thrilled. And by the time I had done some experiment on the phone a year back on the 13th with Shumon, so I was talking about it to Pratik, and Pratik said, we have something like this. Would you be interested? I said, okay, fine. I read the script, very interesting. I said, okay, let's do this. So Pratik would actually help me in researching what kind of things that we would want to do, the way we would want to do in terms of the camera. He was very, very thorough with his research. So I had to just go down to his place in the evening. I said, okay, let's see what you researched today. And this is what I have researched. And we would then lock onto what we would want to use, how we would want to use, how we would want to see the camera. We we took our time to arrive at the aspect ratio that we wanted to work on. So it's 4:3. We wanted to use not see this way left and right, but see this way, vertically. A lot of other comments that Pratik has on this, but primarily it was like we wanted to see things layered vertically. So iPhone, yes, we did a lot of research, and very very initially we roped in Mahek. We requested her to work on this with us, and Mahek and Pratik and me, we would do tests. So, in a situation like this, when it's a smaller camera, it's not like an Arri or a Sony, the high-end cameras, then you have to be very precise of what you're going to do. And so we did tests with Mahek with in the very beginning, and understand, okay, this is the way we're going to shoot, this is what is acceptable to us. So in terms of what ISOs we're going to do, how much grain we want to let it come, which cameras to use, as in the sense the sensors, the three cameras that the phone has, so like this, so which camera to use. And then so once we are here, then what I did was we did all these tests at the lab, outside the lab, and then we shot the material, we brought it in, we saw at the grade what is happening, and we went back. I went for a tech recce. At the recce, I shot a lot of material. I took that material again, went back to, I can see this is what the space is, this is how it is going to be. So we were quite close to what it's going to, we were cooking through the process, and we developed a LUT for us. LUT is like a already pre-designed in layman's language a filter that you're going to use. Although you're shooting, completely wider color and contrast gamut. So we had a LUT with us, which we developed through the process, which which helped us a lot. How the phone image sometimes is very too colorful, so we wanted to control the color information on it. So while you are shooting, you would see this color. Of course, there is all the data that is there, but with the LUT you would see. So that helped. And by the time we reached the grade level, it was a cakewalk. We know, okay, this is what we've decided, this is what we're going. So yeah, that helped. And both Pratik and Shubham have been very helpful. They We bought in some lenses from America to attach it to the camera because it's a 24 millimeter, it's very wide. And we're doing fiction, we wanted to shoot a little tellier. So we got a lens which was translating to 40 roughly. So that lens and everything, research and bringing it and all of that, Pratik and Shubham helped me a lot uh, with the production hassle of it. Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic journey, shooting Jaltu with these people, and it's some project which is very close to me. I believe. Yeah,
Okay, okay, great, great. And sir, your new release, it's a web series. It's called IC 814, The Kandahar Hijack. So congratulations first of all, sir, for the release.
thank
And
you.
what has been your experience working in this series, sir?
So I walked into the show about once 19 days of filming were done. There was Ivan who was shooting it, Ivan Mulligan. So I met him when they were doing the Nepal exterior scenario, and we knew that there were some reasons he wouldn't be able to continue or come here and shoot. So there was an exchange of thoughts and ideas with him, the way he's perceiving it and all of that, and the way he was shooting it. I went to observe, and we had a lot of discussions over how things are going to be. And then once we came here, we started working very closely with Anubhavji and Sumit, the production designer. Fantastic people to work with. Anubhav is there's so much to learn from him. The whole ideas of Johnson that one has back in the film school, grown up with those ideas he would bring in, and it was a pleasure working with such interesting people. At the same time, the scale was really big, so I had to bring in a team which was really solid. So I had Anuj, who's been my regular collaborator, my associate, Anuj, who was doing second camera for me. There was Akbar, who was my gaffer, unconditional support from Light and Light that I got. And I had grips from Light and Light also. At the same time, at some point of time, I had to get specialized grips. So I got in Veer from Zoo Grips. So we got in a lot of people, experts in the subject to come together and collaborate and create whatever we've created. We worked thoroughly on because it was a big set. We had to be really on paper, work around what kind of lighting plans one would go for, and with each scene. It is a very comprehensive process about this time of the year, last year. So it was a very dense way of working, but it was really pleasurable to work with the set of actors that I had. I was honestly speaking, I was a little nervous when Nasir Saab or Pankaj Kapoor would come in and all that. But at the same time, Nasir Saab and we worked before at Satcom, so we had some connections and all that. He was so comfortable. He made me so comfortable. All the actors, none of them were like, overwhelming. I think it was lovely working with them. I had a very, very good time working with them. And also the whole uh, the Matchbox and Banaras Media. These people were so supportive in all the things that we were trying to do. Each department would support each other, and especially the production design art direction department. I mean, for me, the production design, the costumes, and the makeup was so important. When you are very close collaboration is what you need and support from each other. With the art department, I had one of the very good, one of the best times that I could do. Such lovely people. And while prepping, you would realize that. So the art was really, really good team that I had.
So, sir, on comparison, like how big was the crew in IC 814 and as comparison to your other projects?
So yeah, I see what at some point of time when we were shooting the aircraft, there were about what 350 people on set. 350, 400 people. Yeah, already there are about 180 people, 150, people roughly in the aircraft, the people that you want to shoot. Then there is the crew. So I overheard. I don't remember. I overheard this figure 350 people. What? 350 people here? And but yeah, this is what it was. Yeah. At the same time, if one is shooting, say, like Jaltu, we had what, 25 people, 20 people roughly. And at a scavenger, we were again what, 10, 12 people. So yeah, the scale becomes big. Then you need so many hands, so many tools, so many things to handle it. And scale is smaller. You don't need people. You don't need people. So, because like say for example, at IC, there were 100 people to be readied at 9 in the morning. So they had to start at 7 in the morning, so 2 hours before. So all of them had to be fed and the costumes, wardrobe, makeup, everything done. So they need a team. Single-handedly, one person or two people can't do it. Similarly, to light up the whole aircraft, one couldn't do it, 5 people or 10 people. We had to have 20 people to work parallelly and work on advanced sets. Okay, this is what we're going to do tomorrow. So things had to be done, prepared a day before, so that we don't lose on time. So it all boils down, again, I keep coming back to it. It's finally you're making images. What you see is what you see on the screen. But what goes behind, it can be really fairly large and really, really minuscule. Doesn't matter, with Scavenger, we landed up at Busan and I know what went through, what we went through, very, very smaller level. And with Scavenger, you would like go and ask for help. Because someone was funding it on his own. So with Scavenger, I said, no, we have to grade it at a better place because I want it to look a certain way. So I asked Bridgepost, Siddharth Mir, you have to help me out. I don't know how we're going to do this. I'll not quote the figure, but it was something that I was also ashamed of saying, listen, this is the money that we have, but you have to do it. And he agreed. I said, okay, I would, please do this. I would want to give you a better credit, just not as a post lab. So that's how we tried to rope him in, and he was really helpful. He is the guy for independent cinema that is happening in the country. So Bridgepost was a unconditional support in both Jaltu, Scavenger, and Aadhar is what we did. And there's another film that I did with him was Pearl of the Desert, which initially he had, Pearl of the Desert, we did not have any funds. I said, this is the film. I want you to, I want you to do it. I don't know how we do it. He said, okay, fine. So Bridge, there's some people who would want to read the script before, and I also believe that bringing in the colorist beforehand makes sense. So bridge these people read the script, or if they walk in at a level where it's a rough cut to see the film and decide whether they want to do it or not. So with Pearl of the Desert, same thing happened. I asked Sid to see the film and decide, and he loved the film, and he said, "Okay, let's do it." Luckily, we got some funds from some DMZ Docfest in Korea, and they could pay him. And I was not. I felt better. Okay, fine, we could pay you for this film. So yeah, I mean, coming back again, the same thing is that it all boils down to the final image that you're trying to make, and with of course keeping in mind the budget that you have and where is it going to go and how is it that you are perceiving it to be there on screen? How does it look on screen? People, your support system being big or small is is a function of budgets and what you want to see.
So, sir, are you doing any other projects like that?
So right now I'm reading stuff from previous something. So and also I have my own experiments that I keep doing. I shoot a lot on celluloid. So I do some tests. I have my, it's like I would not say hobby, but it's something that I learned image making on film. And then the moment I finished film school, everything was digital. So I got back to shooting on film on celluloid last 2 3 years. So I practiced that. I also recently I conducted a workshop also along with a developer. So yeah, that is something that I keep doing as uh, my endeavors towards image making. And I see, because I believe this image making with digital, it's liberating, it's ease of access, it's democratic, it's become really easy. At the same time, the immediacy of image making is so quick that you forget the image also that you made. You don't even put a thought before making that image. So that led me to get back to film and shooting on celluloid. So, each frame counts, and still camera, you have just 36 frames. So that is 36 frames, how are you making images and what are you doing? And then it goes through a process, chemical process and physical process. So you're living through the image making process. So that really intrigues me. So that is something that I keep doing, and that keeps me, and the periods where I'm not shooting between films or shows or whatever I keep doing. So in those period of time, I engage myself with the celluloid. So yeah, I mean right now I'm like reading scripts. There's nothing specific that I've committed to. And I'm open.
So, sir, my last question is: if somebody wants to become a cinematographer, like what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, watch films. That's the most important. Watching cinema will open up so many thoughts and ideas. And not only watching, but you need to have at least a group of people or like people with whom you can discuss those things. Knowledge does help, but if you don't have access to formal education, you should have a bunch of people with whom you can keep talking and discussing the films. Films, watching films is the most important. And now it's fairly easy, as I have shot a film on the iPhone, so it's not rocket science to make films now. People can make sitting at their home, and everything is most of them, you know, things that are available are free, softwares and things like that. DaVinci Resolve is free. You can grade at home. You can edit at home. The Blackmagic app that the camera I have used is free. So there's nothing that you are spending. Most of the things are free. So things are available. You can do it. At the same time, watch films that shapes you up. Like I was shooting one scene in IC, and where the two air hostesses are there, and it's in Kandahar. The door is open, and one is crying, the other one is consoling her. So seeing that, I was reminded of something else at that moment. I shot that, and I dug out an image from Cries and Whispers, and I showed it to Anuj, and I said, Anuj, this image reminds me of this. So, how connections happen. You never even thought that you're going to do it. With your subconscious, those kind of things keep coming out. So, it's what you're feeding inside you. So, this fantastic cinema that is happening and has happened. So, one wants to do it, watch film. At the same time, I also keep open myself, expose myself to artworks, which is artworks and music being the purest form of creativity. Keeping yourself around such things that finally shapes your ideas when you are interpreting a text or when you are writing a text. Live, all kinds of art forms you have to be around with. I keep going for plays. There's such form of inspiration I find. So much of effort goes in doing a play. So it's not one specific thing that to do cinematography you need to know how the camera works. It's fairly simple. It's basic science that applies. So that you will understand. It's not very difficult. What you probably would do a test, see, okay, this is what is happening. You would shoot, but where to place the camera, what lens to use, what kind of lens to use, what is the quality that you are trying to achieve. So those things, those how you arrive at those decisions are yourself, your being. That is you. That is your voice, what lens you are using, or what camera you are using. So those things will be shaping only when you feed yourself with things like that. What is the kind of things that you feed with?